everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. And I'm going to try something else today. I think I stole this idea from somebody else, but I don't worry about such things. Anyway, something like a book of the week video. And I might not even do them every week, but it's a video where I'm just going to grab a book off the shelf, something that's very special to me or important to me or that I just want to talk about. And that's what I'm doing today. And the book I chose today is the book that, for me, I didn't have a book collection until I got this book. When I decided I wanted to start collecting books, I'd been reading for a while, and I would read library books and free books that people would give me and stuff like that. And I didn't really even buy that many of them. Very few did I buy. But I was a reader, and I'd found some books that I really liked and some authors that I really liked. And one day a light bulb went off saying, I collect things and I read. Seems weird that I don't have a book collection. So I started out looking for books. And when I discovered that this thing existed, I had to have it. And the book collection meant nothing until I had this book on the shelf. And that book is right here. What's that for? Stay away from my books. That book is this one right here. And that is the Whispers Press edition of The Tomb by F. Paul Wilson. And we'll talk about the book here in a minute. But Whispers Press is a defunct book publisher. They made some pretty cool stuff. This is a very clothy slipcase. Soft feeling, cardboard wrapped in cloth. But slipcases are great. I prefer them. But here is the book. You see the sprayed edge on top, another neat touch. And there is the artwork on the front of the dust jacket of The Tomb. And, well, it kind of applies, I guess. But The Tomb is probably my second favorite book of all. And so as I open it up here, we got colored end papers, and a strange thing about this signed limited edition, I've never had a book like that. The limitation is on the front of the end paper. Mine is copy number 137 of 250, and it's signed by F. Paul Wilson and Stewart Schiff. Take this dust jacket off here, stretch it out a little bit, although there's not a whole lot special about the backside. It talks about the book. This is a classic stuff, published in 1984. So things were done a little bit differently in 1984. This was ahead of its time, but a very clothy, again, a soft sort of cloth bound hot foil stamping on the front cover. Looks good. And then the spine, it does look good. This is the type, a Centipede Press. Those of you who like Centipede Press, well, it does ring a bell in styling. And then you have the sprayed edges. You have the Smith sewn binding, the top edge stain, they call it. The Smith sewn binding, signed on the front of the end papers. And other than that, that's the way it's done. No interior illustrations, although it is a good, thick, heavy paper. If you want to feel it, feel it. Good, thick, heavy paper. And there's the typeset. It's okay in size, but this is the first print version. Now there's a trade edition of this, which I also have. I'm not going to bother with that one today. A trade edition of this, which is exactly the same without the limitation page and the slipcase. There's also a much more rare version that was made, just a handful of copies at some event. I can't remember the details to show it off. At a big event that was going on at the time, which I have one of those as well. As a fan and a collector, I've tried to get all of the cool editions of one of my favorite books that I could possibly get. But The Tomb is F. Paul Wilson's, my opinion, it's F. Paul Wilson's book. He's got other ones like Black Wind, which he feels is his favorite of the books he's written, is what you said. The Keep, perhaps one of the more well-known and popular books that he's written. And then The Tomb, which for me is my favorite. Second favorite book I've ever read. But it's the first Repairman Jack book. If you've heard of Repairman Jack, it's a series. I think he made 15 or so books in that series. Fabulous. Strongly recommend. And this was the first book. It was not intended to be a series. And in fact, F. Paul Wilson was adamant that this was not going to be a series. And for 14 years, there was no more Repairman Jack novels written. This was 1984. The second Repairman Jack novel was Legacies, written in 1998. He had written some short stories in between, which were all fabulous. Awesome. But after Legacies in 1998, it didn't take long for F. Paul Wilson to decide, well, I can do something with this character after all. And he wrote quite a few sequels, quite a few sequels. The last one he wrote was The Dark at the End, and that one leads up to Night World, which is a book that he wrote in 1991 or 92, which included Repairman Jack, and it was the end of all the world. Anyway, we're not getting into that. But The Tomb is so many things. In a nutshell, you have Repairman Jack. He's what would be an urban mercenary. The novel's written in the mid-'80s. The original version was written in the mid-'80s. So I dig the 80s stuff. I grew up in the 80s, so I dig it. But Repairman Jack, he's a guy that lives in New York City, but he's off the radar. He doesn't have a social security number, doesn't file W-2 forms or anything like that. And he makes his living solving problems for people. So he gets paid, but he solves problems for people that the law can't solve, won't solve, is unable to solve, and for one reason or another, they call Jack. And he lives a life of, he has a few friends. Otherwise, he doesn't like to be known. He doesn't want his name in the phone book or anything like that. But he's got a girlfriend named Gia who found out a little bit about what he does. She thought he was a repairman, repairing lamps and things like that. She found out accidentally what he does, and she couldn't deal with it. The fact that he would do the things he does sometimes involves killing and such. Although he's not an assassin, sometimes in defense of himself or somebody else, he has had to kill. And for other reasons. But anyway, Gia has left him, and he's kind of upset and depressed about that. And he takes a case where an elderly Indian lady from India was mugged, beaten badly, and had a family heirloom type of a necklace stolen from her. And this fellow named Kazum Bhakti, who's missing an arm and he works for the UN, hires Jack to find her necklace. And in the meantime, do whatever he does to the guy that stole it. But the main thing is finding her necklace. It's life and death, because he says this lady is dying and she can't die without her necklace. So Jack doesn't really get it, and he doesn't really see much of a chance in being able to find the necklace. But he comes up with a plan. One of the great things about Jack is his fix-its. He comes up with some alternative solutions. How do you find this guy? Well, pose as an old lady, try to get somebody to mug you, and go to the same places where the lady went. Check out the usual fences and different things like that. But in the meantime, there's still things going on with Gia, his girlfriend who's left him. She's got a daughter who's very close to Jack. They were very good friends while he was dating Gia. And Gia's also got in-laws. Her ex-husband, who's gone now, his aunts, and they're also very close to Gia. And one of the aunts has gone missing. And through some weird circumstances, the UN relationships and things like that, they asked Gia to ask Jack to help find her. And so Jack takes on that case for free, for a favor, for a friend. So now he's trying to solve both cases at the same time. More people are dying and more people are disappearing. And I don't want to give spoilers, but there are monsters in this book called Rakoshi, ancient Indian folklore type monsters that most people believe were just things you told your kids to get them to go to bed at night. But they're real. And they are in New York. And they are doing the bidding of somebody. And they're killing and they're eating and they're bad dudes. The Rakoshi are described in many ways like shark heads, cobalt skin, 3 fingers with long talons, and they are basically indestructible, and they can do amazing things, and their eyes glow. They walk around on two legs and stuff, so they're really cool creatures. And Repairman Jack is one really bad dude. He's a guy that's picked up a lot over the years, whether it be fighting or firearms or other types of tactics. He's not just a regular guy. He's not a Navy SEAL or anything like that. He's learned stuff on his own over the years, figuring out what he would need to be able to do to be able to save his life or get his jobs done and things like that. There's some really other cool characters in here. Abe Grossman, Jack's friend who owns Isher Sports Shop. Special customers get to go in the back and find out what else Abe has for sale. And Julio has a bar named Julio's. And Jack likes to go there to have a few beers and occasionally do some business, meet clients. And Julio also is a guy who can take care of business, can take care of himself, and helps Jack accidentally frisking people without them knowing they're being frisked, or giving Jack a little bit of a 411 on them as they come in, give them a heads up, things like that. But some really cool characters, and of course it's in the mid-80s. The original version is in the mid-80s in New York City. So I've never been there, but it's cool to get to read about that world and those things and stuff like that. And so I fell in love with Jack as a character, and I loved the whole series. But The Tomb is, for me, is one of the greats. Some great scenes at the end. It's got, I mean, this book ends well-written book. F. Paul Wilson is a very efficient storyteller, and this is one of his earlier works, so he kind of honed his craft a little bit after that. But I love this book. It's my favorite of his. And without spoiling the ending or anything like that, there are some excellent scenes, stuff that would look great in a movie, where Jack has to break bad on monsters, on people. And then the way the book ends also is very, very well written, and it's a great thing. I won't give you any details about that, but The Tomb, this is, if I had to have one book, this would be the book. I mean, one physical copy of a book. My favorite book is Alas Babylon, and I don't have any really great copies of Alas Babylon, but since this version of The Tomb exists, it's my one book, the one book for me. But I strongly recommend The Tomb. I strongly recommend F. Paul Wilson. Read F. Paul Wilson, read the Repairman Jack stuff, start with The Tomb, read on through. It's great stuff. It touches on the noir without feeling like it's noir, which is cool. I like that stuff. And some of the good noir novels, they really make sure you know it's noir. They make sure you know they're trying to do noir, and I'm okay with that. I really like it. But when you can get stuff like that where they're not really trying to do it, it just falls into that category. That's also fun, and I feel like this is in there. It's in there. He's not a private investigator, and he's not ex-CIA or ex-anything, ex-police or any of that kind of stuff. But Jack is one bad dude. I strongly recommend you check it out. Anyway, thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it. C'est la vie, baby. Watch Dracula too. Watch the movie. After you read the book, watch Dracula. Some insight there.
This line stretches all the way back to Terre Haute, and we're at the end of it.